Dear Thai, dear Sangha, good morning. I hope you had a good night's sleep and the sun is coming out. So our weekend is about exploring two basic Buddhist meditation sutras. The Sutra of the Full Awareness of Breathing, the Anapanasati, and the Sutra about the four establishments of mindfulness, the Satipatthana. Maybe some of you already had a chance to dip in a little bit with the resources that Lindsay kindly sent out. And if you did, then you will have found that it's a very big subject. So it encompasses everything. The two sutras cover everything in our experience. And however, I found, as I was enjoying reminding myself of all the practices that the Buddha suggests there and practicing with them, reminding me of the teachings again as well, I realized that there is one song that sums it all up, the teachings of these two sutras in just a few words. And I think probably many of us here in this room know this song. It goes in, out, deep, slow, calm, ease, smile, release. Present moment, wonderful moment. So I thought it would be lovely to sing this song together to start with, because that is what our weekend is all about. If you wouldn't mind joining me, that would be lovely. In, out, deep, slow, calm, ease, smile, release. Present moment, wonderful moment. Once again. In, out, deep, slow, calm, ease, smile, release. Present moment, wonderful moment. That's it, we can go home now. So a few days ago, I was cycling along Findhorn Bay and breathing in the sunshine and the beautiful colors, these autumn colors, and was breathing out my preoccupations. And it was a moment where I felt so one with life. And I'm sure you all have memories of little moments like this when we suddenly become fully present and we realize we are one with life. And it's very sweet and very profound. As I was going back to these two sutras, I found that they really energized my practice in a new way. I remember a retreat in Plum village with Thai, which is probably almost 20 years ago, on the Sutra of the Full Awareness of Breathing. And of course, these two teachings are the very foundation of everything we encounter in Thai's talks and in our retreats together. And yet it was so wonderful to rediscover them and falling all over in love with these teachings again and feeling how they energize my practice. So these teachings are thousands of years old, And it's up to us to bring them alive again, to become curious about what the Buddha is offering here, and to apply them, the practices and teachings, to our daily life, and find out what supports us, what energizes us, what brings joy to our practice, as Martin said last night. So there's a lot to discover in these two sutras. According to the Buddha, our experience, our human experience, can be described in 4 ways. There's the body, or form. There are feelings, and there is the mind, the river of mind, with all our mental states. And there are phenomena, or all dharmas. Tai also talks about the objects of mind. But the dharmas are basically everything. So that's everything. So these teachings are very comprehensive indeed. And so we're invited to bring our mindfulness to these 4 areas of experience. The Satipatthana Sutra is called the 4 establishments of mindfulness. So we establish our mindfulness in the body or in the feelings. It's a way to bring our awareness and concentration to our experience in order to understand ourselves better and each other, and in order to cultivate presence and love and peace. So the first area of experience is the body. And the Buddha used this curious phrase, the body in the body. Maybe you've come across this, the body in the body. So it's not the body from 2 inches away. It's bringing our awareness to the very heart and bones of our embodied experience. And I would like to invite a bell and invite you for a little experiment with the sound of the bell, to take a few breaths and just tune in to the body in your body. What might that feel like, the body in the body? This is a phrase that inspires me a lot, because the mind can have a habit of thinking about placing ourselves on the outside of our experience and then judging and commenting, and bringing mindfulness to the body in the body. I hear as an invitation by the Buddha, to be inside of ourselves, to be embodied. So the Buddha offered a number of practices, and we've experienced already a few of them this morning in the morning practice, and we will experience more over the course of the next days. So there is the first and very important one is to cultivate the full awareness of breathing. Then there are the positions of the body, which we heard about this morning, the actions of the body, the parts of the body. It's like a body scan. We will have the chance to have a body scan or deep relaxation this afternoon and guide our warm and friendly awareness through all the areas of our body, bring awareness to them. Then the 4 elements within the body, but also around us. And another practice the Buddha suggests is to contemplate the impermanence of our body. So it's very rich to only explore the realm of the body. And by doing this, saturating our being with presence, with curious, kind presence. I have very fond memories of my first retreat in Plum Village, where mindfulness of breathing was a revelation for me. I was in my 30s, and just the simple act of coming home to my breathing made such a world of a difference to me. And for, I thought, maybe 7 years or so, that was my practice, just to come home to my breathing. And I wasn't particularly interested in Buddhist teachings at all. It was just the awareness of breathing that made such a difference in my life. And in hindsight, I think of this as the essence of the teachings. So in Plum Village, Thai and the community and the joy and warmth and love and presence transmitted to me the essence of these teachings. And I remember another retreat in my very early days, and there was a Dharma teacher from a European country, so a very experienced practitioner, and she shared that her practice was just going back to her breathing. So she had absorbed all these teachings and sutras, and she decided at that time all she needed was to really come home to her breathing. So it's a very powerful thing to do, and to be. So I hope I can inspire us over these 3 days to become curious and explore the full awareness of breathing throughout our day and what it is like. And then of course we lose it, and that's part of the deal, that's fine. And then we see a friend walking so beautifully, and that reminds us, as Martin mentioned, the different bells, so we can be bells of mindfulness for each other. And then we remember, and we come back. And what is it like to bring mindful awareness to everything we do? Mindfulness of breathing has a few purposes. The first and foremost purpose is that by bringing our awareness to the breathing, we come home to the body. The mind comes home to the body. The mind might have been miles away, or maybe even busy with several things. And by breathing in and out, and knowing we're breathing in and out, the mind is coming home to the body. So we're establishing ourselves in embodied presence in the here and now. Another purpose is that we can refine over time our attention. Things that we keep doing and keep coming back to, we get better at. So we will find that in our sitting practice and also in our coming back to our breathing over the day, our attention will refine and deepen, and we will pick up more and more in the body, but also in the feelings and the mind. And then mindfulness of breathing also helps our insight. So when our body is relaxed and the mind comes to rest, we can see clearly. We discover, we understand. And that comes with a more sense of love and peace for ourselves and for the world. And finally, also, mindfulness of breathing helps us to explore what Thai has called the historical dimension and the ultimate dimension. So the historical, everyday, day to day, and then the ultimate dimension, a broader, deeper insight. And of course the two are not separate, so we will explore this a little bit more later. So when we come home to our breathing, there is a lot of information for us. Maybe we can take a moment just now and find our breathing, and without any judgment, just find what the quality of our breathing is like. It might be short, choppy, labored. It might be, or it might just start to settle. It might just start to ease a little, or it might already be deep from this morning's practice. And can we allow ourselves to be just as we are in this moment? Can we allow our breathing to be just as it is? There's no need to change anything. And when we pick up on the quality of our breathing, there is information there. If we feel stressed, the breath might be quite short. And then even acknowledging, oh, my breath is quite short, and there's an element of stress there that might already go quite a long way towards easing that stress. Just noticing and embracing. So we can see that feelings and the body are very intimately connected, and becoming good friends with our breathing and checking in from time to time is a really helpful thing to do. So for me, the key qualities here are curiosity, being curious about my experience, and letting be, embracing. I have a friend with who I sometimes lead mindfulness sessions, and he invites people to check in with their inner weather, and he always uses the phrase, all weathers are welcome. So maybe we can approach our breathing in that spirit of all weathers are welcome. There is no bad weather, is there? In Scotland, certainly not. There is just embracing all resistance. So we can give this gift of love to ourselves. In any moment we remember during the day to take a moment to check in with ourselves, to come home to our breathing and reconnect. And in that way, if we maybe were dispersed or distracted, come back to a sense of wholeness, come back to our center, make ourselves whole again. When we sit in meditation and breathe with the sensations of our body, we begin to see, as in close-up, how interconnected this body is. So in our everyday consciousness, it's very easy for us to perceive the body as a discrete self-entity with the skin as the border. This is me. This is not me. And yet when we start contemplating and looking deeper, we see that the body is linked to the environment by energy and matter continuously passing through us. So we are what we eat. We take in matter. We are what we breathe. And then we give off, is it CO2? And what comes out is what the trees breathe in. So the breathing is a very beautiful reality of our interbeing. Science is telling us that our body is host to thousands of species of bacteria, fungi, and viruses. There's an estimated 38 trillion cells, 38 trillion of cells of bacteria in our body, outnumbering the number of human cells. So these bacteria, are they me or are they not me? So our body is a community, a walking ecosystem. Science says our body is an open system in continuous exchange with the environment. If you have a scientific interest, there is this brilliant book called The Self-Delusion, very beautifully written, very funny to read, but based on science, by Tom, I think Robbins? The Self-Delusion, you find it online, very good read, and he explains how we are a community. Not just the body, but the mind and everything. Also, when we sit in meditation and observe our body more deeply, we can see in detail and as in close-up the impermanence, how our body is, again, not solid and unmoving as our everyday mind might think, but our body really is a process in constant flux, changing all the time in connection with everything else. As causes and conditions are moving and changing, maybe the moisture in the air changes, or we take in a particular food. And then our physical and physiological processes also change and move in response. So we're part of the stream of life, of the web of life that's interconnected. It's a web of relationships. And we're moving and changing with the heartbeat of the cosmos. And that is true for the body, but it's equally true for feelings. We move on to the second foundation of mindfulness, which is the feelings. And here again, the Buddha used the phrase, the feelings in the feelings. Not the feelings as we might perceive them from outside and look at them and maybe judge and fix and improve, but the feelings from inside, from right in there, from a place of being one with ourselves. And the Buddha identified broadly 3 types of feelings. There's pleasant feelings, there's unpleasant feelings, and there's neutral feelings. We like, we don't like, or we don't care. Feelings maybe for many of us feel quite close to home, so they might feel like something uniquely ours. My love, my rage, my confusion, my happiness, my grief. But on looking deeply and sitting and contemplating our feelings, this stream, the themes of interbeing and impermanence continue. What we feel in response to events is in part determined by habits of those around us. I don't have children, but I imagine if you have children, your feelings are quite a lot determined by what's going on with them, for example, by their habits. Our feelings are determined by habits in our society and by our ancestors' habits and worldviews. They are imprinted in our DNA and passed on to us also through conditioning. So what we perceive as ourselves is a remarkable, wondrous coming together of conditions. Tai has said our self is made of many non-self elements. Our feelings interare with the world in constant arising and passing and flux. The Buddha invites us to pay attention to happy feelings. Psychology talks about a negativity bias. So we're wired in a way, our mind has a tendency to pick up on negative things much more than positive. Evolutionary biology is telling us that that was more important for survival, to see a threat quickly and take yourself away or fight, rather than enjoying the beautiful flowers. That was an optional extra. However, in times where depression is so prevalent, and there are many causes and conditions that can water these seeds in us of depression and despair, it is very important to water our happiness and joy so we have some resilience, like a squirrel. For the hard times we need a little store of good feelings, of love, of connectedness. So that's the invitation by the Buddha, to pay attention to beautiful moments. And I learned that it takes around 20 seconds physiologically for happiness or joy to land in our system until the endorphins kick in and the nervous system has understood that there's something nice going on. And this is, I find, an important piece of information for us in our fast-paced society, because when we experience something, maybe we receive an email with some lovely news, it's very easy to move on to the next thing and the next before we really have had the benefit of the joy landing in our system. And this is a very healthy thing. Endorphins boost our health, our physical health, our mental health. So that's another invitation I would like to put out for this weekend, for us to notice what's lovely and to savor it, to stop and savor. That's a practice, stopping and savoring. There's another lovely little book called 10 Breaths to Happiness by one of the American Dharma teachers. If you're interested in this, elaborates on the practice of stopping and savoring and gives you all the science behind it. Maybe some of us remember this song, If You're Happy and You Know It, clap your hands. And I thought maybe that could be a lovely thing to sing together, because Thai reminds us that mindfulness, knowing that we're happy, is an essential ingredient of our happiness. Would you join me with this song? We don't need to do it all, the whole... If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, and you really want to show it. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, take a breath. If you're happy and you know it, take a breath. If you're happy and you know it, take a breath. If you're happy and you know it, and you really want to show it. If you're happy and you know it, take a breath. One more. Any suggestions?
Smiles.
If you're happy and you know it, give a smile. If you're happy and you know it, give a smile. If you're happy and you know it, and you really want to show it. If you're happy and you know it, give a smile. Maybe we can continue this song on the celebration evening. Maybe you have some more ideas until then. And then, of course, there are also painful feelings. Stress, grief, despair, depression. And in our society, we have a strong collective habit energy of suppressing, of distracting ourselves, of not wanting to go there. And these seeds are watered a lot, I find. So we have many, many opportunities to distract ourselves from going back home. And I was intrigued to find that Thai wrote about right and wrong concentration. So there is something like wrong concentration where we use our meditation practice as escaping from the complexities of life and our difficulties, rather than facing them. Maybe some of us have heard the term spiritual bypassing. And the invitation of the Buddha is to really get to know ourselves with everything that's there in this home. When we recognize difficult feelings and embrace them with kindness and warmth, and then we can look deeply into the roots of these feelings, what nourished these feelings. Maybe we took in too many news, or maybe we did some things that were not helpful for our mental health. When we recognize this, we have a choice. We can choose to not do these things that water seeds of despair in us. And then that goes in the direction of transformation, transforming these seeds of suffering. And some suffering transforms quite quickly. You just notice and say, oh, darling, it's okay, darling. And then it feels already like a relief. And other very deep-seated sufferings might need a long time to transform. But they will transform, as I have experienced in my family. I come from a divorced family and a family where there was violence, both physical and mental and emotional. And it took a long time and many times sitting in Thai's presence and the community and having seeds of love watered and of understanding. And Thai said it takes two things for transforming our pain. One is time and one is Sangha. And I really can see how over 2.5 decades my family has transformed, and there is peace now and a connection. And I'd like to also share a short example for a quick moment of transformation, which happened quite recently. I went for a walk, and during that walk I noticed I'm not really present. I'm kind of not in my body, and so that is telling me something. So I was asking myself, what's going on, darling? Deep breath. Maybe walking a little slower. And so I caught something wasn't quite right. And I met this with curiosity and warmth. I was trying to be my best friend, my own best friend. And then I realized I have a neighbor who is 95 years old. He lives across the road, and he has been very unwell. We've got quite friendly over the years. And he got very unwell. And suddenly, when I tuned into this feeling in my body, it brought up a memory. I remembered that I felt like this when it came to the end with my mother a few years ago. It was this a slight tension and like, oh God, what's happening next? And I noticed this memory and I thought, oh, this is what's going on. I'm really worried. And then I noticed, and then embracing it made such a difference, and catching this memory and then finding that it might well be he has actually recovered. He's actually quite well again, so I'm really happy. But it could have gone, it might have been his time to pass over. And I felt, what do I want to be in this time? If this is the case, I want to offer my presence. I want to offer my being there. I want to offer my breathing and my connection in whatever way is appropriate or needed in any moment. So that was a really quick transformation into catching this memory, giving myself love, embracing. This is not easy. This time when my mother passed away was not easy at all. And embracing all of this and connecting with my aspiration, with my love for this person, and with my wish to contribute. Maybe some of you are familiar with this poem by Rumi, The Guest House, where Rumi says, all these feelings, whether they're lovely or difficult, let's welcome them all in this human being is a guest house. Every feeling has some kind of a message or some information perhaps. And at the same time, as we're practicing not repressing but embracing, it's also important to have a trauma awareness. So many of us have trauma in our backgrounds, and that could be big trauma, it could be small trauma, but any trauma has some information in our nervous system. And it is important to be in touch with how much is helpful in this moment. So it's important not to force being with difficult feelings. It's important to step back, to maybe take a little step and then step back again and space this out over time. So we don't want to re-traumatize ourselves. We want to be a good spiritual friend for ourselves. So it's important to not force anything and to trust our body, our feelings, our mind telling us, let's stop here. This is as much as I can handle right now. Let's step back, let's ease off again and come back to this. So I liked the phrase, I read somewhere the comment on Rumi's poem, The Guest House. Yes, we want to welcome all of them, but we don't need to give them the keys to our house. That's also important. So, noticing, but we don't need to drown in these feelings. We don't hand over the keys. It's still our house. So I really like the image, maybe you can picture it in your mind, of the bud and the sunshine. So our feeling, our mental formation, our mind state could be a bud, and we don't want to leave this bud on its own. We invite the sunshine, let the sunshine in. And the sun is our mindfulness, our mindful breathing. And the bud receives the warmth of the sunshine. And with continued warmth and sunshine of our mindful breathing, our mindful walking, we can take our grief, our sorrow by the hand, go for a walking meditation. And the sunshine over time will allow this bud to gently open in its own time. And again, the more we do this on the cushion and in our daily life, in mindful moments, as well as in our sitting practice and walking practice, we get more skilled. We get more skilled at spotting things. Sometimes something is quite subtle, and we will get better at spotting things, as well as getting better at, many of us, most of us perhaps, have not learned, we're not taught to be kind to ourselves. I certainly have voices in myself that are pushing, challenging myself. So it can need overriding or transforming some of our conditioning to develop this sense of becoming our own best friend. But over time and with continued practice, we deepen these skills and our ability to do that. And also, if we feel our mindfulness is not strong enough, maybe we're just at the beginning with our practice, or we have maybe practiced for a while, but still we have times when too much is going on and our mindfulness is not very strong, then we can take refuge in the Sangha and in our friends' mindfulness practice. So we can borrow each other's mindfulness. So we can ask a friend to sit with us and maybe just breathe together, or maybe also listen to us. And many of us are lucky to have sanghas where friends breathe with us on a regular basis and share and listen deeply. And transformation, Thai is telling us, happens at the base. There was a book title, Transformation at the Base, which now is called Understanding Our Mind. There's our mind consciousness, is our thinking mind, and our store consciousness is our, maybe quite close to our unconscious, where all the seeds are. And we are trained to think that we transform a situation by problem solving, by thinking. But Thai is telling us transformation happens at the level of store consciousness, with the support of Sangha and time and breathing and being our own best friend. So that's a very important thing for me to realize, who was brought up with a strong thinking mind. So my problem solving only gets me so far, and the real stuff happens somewhere else with the help of breathing and walking and nature. So there would be other things to say, but I strongly recommend, if you're inspired and if you're interested in working with these two sutras, and as I say, there is so much material, get yourself a copy of these two books, or one of them even. Breathe, You Are Alive, and the other one is Transformation and Healing. And there is a number of ways to practice with these many suggestions. Certainly with the 16 practices for awareness of breathing, we could practice them in succession, one after the other, going through all the 16. But it's also possible to pick one that suits our conditions on that day. Maybe we feel very spacey, very ungrounded. Maybe we really feel we need to focus on the body. Maybe walking meditation, maybe deep relaxation. Or we have some suffering to embrace. Thai has suggested to always start with the first four, to always bring ourselves home to the breathing and to the body, because this gives us a solid foundation, a stability to sit in the storm, if it comes, when it comes, to have this trunk of the tree, the roots solidly in the earth, and then the branches, they can go in all directions, but we are held by our breathing, by our connectedness with our body, with our breathing body. So I'd like to finish by saying I started in April, because I did remember that there is a lot in these two sutras. So I started in April to immerse myself again, and I haven't been bored for a moment. It's very rich. There's so much in there. Yeah, I have been feeling thoroughly enriched and my practice energized. There is an element in these teachings of the Buddha taking us by the hand and saying, do this on the cushion. And I imagine I'm not the only one who sometimes really appreciates this guidance, sitting down to meditate and someone saying, do this, breathe and savor each breath. And then all the other suggestions. So it's very inspiring, and I know I will continue to practice with this material, and I feel there's so much more to deepen and to discover. So let's enjoy the sound of the bell, and then you can see what's moving in you